name is Sue Bola, and when I started my career after college, I was a high school teacher. So I'm very excited. I taught English myself, and I taught journalism, if you know what that is. And I love doing that, and I love talking to kids your age. So please ask me any questions.
How are you, ma'am?
I'm very good, thank you.
This is Akash Kumar, a ninth grader from JPHS Alvaram. I'm excited to interact with you. Now I would like to ask you a question. Can I?
Sure, please.
To achieve success in our life, we need to eat healthy food. What food do you suggest to this young generation to live young?
Vegetables in particular. In my family home, every night, with whatever meal we had, there was a plate of fresh vegetables or fresh fruits. And if we liked the main meal, we still had to eat from the vegetables and fruits. And you must be sure that you have those and not have the food that will make you gain weight and be unhealthy, have too much cholesterol.
Hello, ma'am. How are you?
Good.
My name is Soumyasri, an 8th grader from JPHS School, Elavaram. I am so honored to interact with you. I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Please.
What is life like in California?
What is life like in California? It's breaking up. Is that correct?
Yes, exactly.
Well, we consider California to be one of the warmest states. Maybe the only state that is warmer for more months of the year is Florida. But in California, we have a temperate state with more rain this year than we've ever had. Normally, it only rains 1 or 2 months a year, but it has been raining for 4 months this time. But it's warm enough to walk outside with only short sleeves, no sweater, for about 8 months a year. So it's quite warm, and you can go out in the evening with just a small sweater. It's a very pleasant place to live, a very ideal place, which is why the population is 10% of the whole country.
Thank you. And I heard that you are living in a very close range to the Pacific Ocean and only a few meters away from the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
So yes, when you are on your apartment, you can see the images, live images of the Pacific Ocean.
Today, the waves were roaring. The whole surf was coming in as if there will be a storm soon.
Okay. How beautiful the Pacific Ocean is.
Oh, it is very, very beautiful, but cold. The ocean in the eastern part of the United States is much warmer. Here, you really can go in if you wear a wetsuit, but you can't swim very much if you don't wear a wetsuit. Only for 1 month in the fall is it warm enough to swim. You can wade, you can get a little wet, but you're not going to swim unless you have a wetsuit.
Oh, okay. So how different Pacific Ocean from Atlantic Ocean? Is there any difference?
The Atlantic Ocean is much warmer, but there's many parts of the Atlantic Ocean where, and during warm weather, of course, the Atlantic Ocean hits some of the coldest states of the United States, so it is not always warm. But during the summer months, the Atlantic Ocean is perfectly warm for swimming, but the Pacific Ocean is very cold. It's still beautiful, and you still walk along it, but you do not swim too much.
Okay, that's.
Hello.
How are you, ma'am?
I've been quite well, thank you.
My name is Mamata. I'm 7th grader. I'm from JPHS School, Elavaram. I would like to ask you a question, ma'am. Can I?
Yes, please.
How strong is the family system in the U.S.A?
It varies a great deal across the country. And some of the reasons why it varies is because women have more opportunity, and so they become strong. And sometimes they have businesses even. I owned my own business. And that means that they have many responsibilities outside of the home, and it becomes necessary for both the husband and the wife to take care of children. It does not get left just to the woman here. So the men have to be agreeable to this. We married later. I married at age 31, and my children married at age 33 and 35. Now that is not entirely common, but it is more common among families where the children go to college. Women now are more than 50% of the college students. There's many more opportunities for women, so they begin to think for themselves and make decisions, and they are happiest when they meet a man who is willing to allow them to become independent people, have their own businesses, and therefore it's a big change. I think, we hear in the United States the opposite, that India does not afford women as many opportunities. I'm hoping that through education, that your country, like mine, will begin to have more opportunities for women.
An A grade from Jilla Parishad High School, Alavaram. I'm so jubilant to interact with you. Here I would like to ask you a question. Can I ask, ma'am?
Please.
What qualities are important to have to become successful in your career?
I think you must be an honest person, someone who can be trusted. I think you need to work to develop leadership skills. You need to volunteer, to lead projects, to lead committees, to lead activities. You need to develop confidence so that you can speak into a project in a meeting like this. You can look into the camera and feel comfortable. So you need to have experience, practice.
So excited actually to know about your personal details. So where were you born and what did you study and why? These are the three questions we would like to answers actually. We would love to know from you.
I wish you could see a map of the United States, because I have lived in many parts of the United States. I grew up in a very small town in Minnesota, which is in the middle of the country in the north. So it's cold more months of the year than most states. My town was only 15,000 people. I studied very hard, even in high school. I had an older brother who was an outstanding scholar, and my father expected me to be the same. I had to work much harder than he did, I think. But I was able to get good grades, and so I was able to get a scholarship to go to college in Illinois, which is still a northern state and still somewhat cold. But Northwestern is located adjacent to Chicago, which is one of the top 5 cities in the country. So this was a big difference for me, coming from a very small town and now living near and participating in things in a big city. I studied journalism. I wanted to be a reporter. I wanted to follow news and write it up. Although I like doing feature stories more than I like doing hard news. I liked writing about people and what kinds of people did important activities. Like if I was to go to the to the Ukrainian war, for instance, as an example, as a reporter, I would want to write about how people were suffering, not about the battles. So I started doing stories, and then on the other hand, I had to find a job, and my father had told me, become a teacher. So I looked for a job as a teacher, and I found a job in Colorado, which is in the West. It's a very interesting state because it is adjacent to the mountains where you can ski and enjoy going up in the mountains on the weekend. And that was interesting to me, but it still seemed like a small town, a small city versus the big city of Chicago. And I found that while I liked teaching, I was teaching the same lessons each semester. I was not growing and learning. So I went back to college in Chicago and got a master's degree. And then I moved to California. I had decided I wanted to live in a big city and I wanted to live in a state that offered more opportunities for women. California has always been a democratic state and women have been successful earlier than in other states in assuming positions. So I moved to California and I took a job in public relations, which my job was to promote products, to promote things that people would buy. And I worked in public relations for 10 years. I moved to a second agency. I worked on everything from architecture to sporting goods, to sporting equipment, to precision measurement, engineering equipment, all different types of products for clients. And then in my next job, I was more consumer. I worked on cars and records and things, electronics a little bit. And then my largest client, which was a bank, asked me if I wanted to have my own company because he wanted to leave that agency. So I took the chance to start my own business. I was about, well, I know exactly how old I was, 34, and I was pregnant. But I still started my own company and I carried my daughter around in a backpack when I got an office. And I grew that agency quite large before I eventually retired.
Wow. So really so inspirational, I think, to this young generation. And the way that you came into, I mean, went through all the hurdles and finally you became successful. And here is one question. Most of these kids, this younger generation, they have a tendency of inferiority complex. They have their ambitions in their life. They want to achieve something in their life at this school age. But later on, their ambitions slowly deplete and dwindle when it comes to the reality. So only 1%, 2% of this young generation are able to realize their dreams, but others, they simply don't. So what would you suggest to this generation and to have the qualities in their life right from the school age? That means from this age to achieve success in their lives, just like what you did.
I always said, yes, I will try. Always, I would try. And I encountered many things where I had never done it before, but somebody offered me the opportunity to try. And so I did, I tried, and sometimes I tried very hard. I had a reporter interview me after my agency was successful. And he asked me why I thought my agency was successful. And I told him it was because I was scared I would fail and I was not willing to fail. I was criticized during this period because I worked long hours. I did not just work from 9 to 5. I would stay late and I would go home and I would write things down on a yellow tablet so that by morning I was ready to tell everyone else what I needed them to do for me. They even kidded me and made jokes about this sometimes, but the employees that I had have come back to me and said, you were the toughest teacher, the toughest boss I ever had, but I learned more with you than anywhere else. And when I went to the next job, I knew how to do it. So I just was scared that I would fail, and I was not willing to fail. It was of course a financial concern that I could fail financially, but I was not afraid of failing financially. I was just afraid that I would not be successful, that I would not show everyone that I could do it. So I always said, we have an expression in the United States, which is grab the brass ring. It's a very old expression from when there were carousels, revolving rides where the horses would go around and around. And if you grabbed a ring on the side of this revolving ring, then you could get another ride free. And so I always said the reason I was successful was because I would always reach up and try to grab the ring. And I think that's it more than anything. If you lose faith in yourself, you will fail. If you don't try as hard as you can, you won't do as well as you could. So it's important just to make a plan. Well, I exceeded my plan, but I then kept grabbing the ring and saying, yes, I'll try.